Okay, for today's project, as far as on the root cellar, we're going to be putting up the upper 2x4s that are around the wall. So with that, we're going to need obviously a circular saw for cutting the wood. We'll use a drill with a 3/16 inch masonry bit. Then we're going to have an impact that we're going to use a 5/16 inch bit. Hammer, because you're always going to have to beat something in place. Tape measure, because you're going to have to measure and make sure you're exact. Speed square, and then a couple clamps to go ahead and hold it in place. I did also get out some wood screws because there's a chance we'll need to get a board stretcher, because I don't have boards that are quite long enough, so we'll be splicing a couple boards together. That was my attempt to humor board stretcher. And then we'll be using some tap guns and then also some 1-inch fender washers down there. So stay with us. Thanks. Hello everybody. Today we are actually starting to set up our roof support so that way we can do the concrete. And I'm not sure if you can see or not, but I've already got this one secured and I'm actually hanging and videoing at the same time, and it's not going anywhere. And what we've done to anchor that in place is I'm just using a concrete screw. Don't know exactly what size it is, but it's they're 3 inches long, and I'm using a 5/16 inch nut driver on my impact to go ahead and put them in. And we're drilling a 3/16 inch hole. And boy, those things they're just snugging it up there real nice. Chose to use the washer on there because I wanted to make sure that because these boards won't stay in here long term, so I wanted to make sure that they were able to to come out real easy, because they're not going all the way through the block. They're just kind of let me see if I can walk up there and show you real quick. They're actually just going in, about flush with the block. Yeah, you can see right there, it's just the tip of it starting to come through. So that's what I wanted. Didn't want to have the concrete impact it, but that's all we're going to do is the whole interior today. We're going to put up this wooden support, and then after that we'll start building basically structures that looks like you're kind of putting up for your walls. And then after that, I'll be throwing some plywood on top. So that's what we're going to be working on. Stay with us. Thanks. One other piece that I forgot to share when I was talking a minute ago, I've actually just got these small 3/4 inch blocks, because that's the thickness of the plywood, and I'm just using that on top. So that way it sits right up there, so when the plywood goes in, I'll be flush with the top of the block. And in this particular area, I'm off by probably a 1/16 of an inch from where the interior wall lined up to the exterior wall. So what I'm trying to do overall is I'm actually trying to match up the 3/4 inch to the outside wall, because the outside wall is what I'm looking for as far as from a pouring standpoint. So, okay, thanks. Okay, you can see inside here, we've got it done. There's an area where I had to use my board stretcher, another board stretcher, and right behind the ladder is another board stretcher. But you can see overall, we've got everything done. The center part here, I just put one little support because I'm not sure how the plywood's going to tie in yet, and we've got it done. And then one thing that we didn't talk a whole lot about in one of the other videos, this conduit here is actually stubbed in for if we decide to put a solar panel on the outside. And then the one over here, it's in the back corner, is actually for if we go with just conventional city power. Thanks again. Shalom. Okay, you saw us yesterday put in this outside trim piece. Now what we're working on right now is, I guess, essentially the roof, but I really think of it as more as the floor, because the roof is going to get poured on top of it. So what we're doing is basically building a really strong structure similar to what you would have, if you've got a basement floor or just a main floor in a house. We're spacing these every 18 inches. As far as the open area will be every 18 inches. And what we've got is we're going to have 2x4s. We're going to run the 2x4s every 15 inches down. We're going to run a 15-inch vertical. So basically all we're building is small stud walls in here. And we're going to have, I think there's going to be 9 of them when we're done. So what we've done here is We're building this all with screws because we want to be able to take it apart. So we're going ahead and screwing in at an angle here on both sides. And then on our vertical board, we're going ahead and screwed in there. And then we're also going to have this vertical board just reinforce the concrete screws that I put in. So we've stuck a couple screws in here with another board. And then at the bottom, you'll see we've actually put a small footer on it too. So the footer's designed for two reasons. One, it's keeping us the right spacing off the wall, so that way our 2x4 is exactly vertical. And then that footer will also displace just a little bit of weight, and we know that we've got our extra foundational rebar in that area, so we're just doing that on the sides. So we're really expecting a little bit of impact there. And then up top here, you'll see we've got a string gauge. So you can see that this board here, in order to touch the string gauge in the center, is going to have to come up about 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to bring that up about 1/8 of an inch when we cut our center board, and that'll be the next part that we do. But we're going to go ahead and stick in all of the horizontals first, and then we'll go ahead and then we'll cut all of our verticals and get all the verticals up. And the final piece you'll see when we're done, we're going to measure out equal distance from the center, just like we've done with the line here, and we're going to run a chalk line down the middle, and then that will get us exactly where our board should be from an up and down standpoint. So we're definitely where we need to be. So stay with us today. We'll take you through this. Should be a great video, and hopefully we won't get too hot today. It's supposed to be a little bit warmer than what it has been, but we're going to beat the heat because we need to get this done and get the floor poured. Thanks. One thing I forgot to talk about, since we have to disassemble this structure, that's why we're using screws. The other thing I'm doing is on every one of these, I'm sticking them in so they're sticking out, and they're at a slight angle, so that way when the roof is poured, I'll be able to come in here real easy and take them out from either side. So I know if they're on the right side, they're out and to the right, and on the left side, they're going to the left. Just makes things so much simpler, and then that way, whether I'm disassembling or Luke's starting to disassemble, we know exactly what we've got going on. So things are going together well. Hopefully by lunchtime we'll have this part done. Thanks again. Okay, if you look behind me, as we were talking about when we left, so we've been building, and you can kind of see, we've just got rows here, similar to like you would for a framing wall. As far as a stud wall, we're actually 13 inches between them as far as center this way, and this way distance I think we're 15 or 16 whenever it's all said and done. And that really is allowing us to feel comfortable that the weight that we're going to put on it's going to be strong. You can see, not that I weigh a huge amount, but same point, I can put everything I've got on it and nothing there at all. What we're doing on the bottom, so we are actually bracing the bottom to make sure that these legs, when they do become under stress, they can't deflect one way or the other. And then when we're done building the other area over here, similar to what we've done right here, we're going to go ahead and attach on the outside. We'll actually attach a board to make sure our spacing is exactly right, because what we've done on the floor, we've actually set a chalk line to match up from top to bottom, so we know exactly where center line of the 2x4s are, so they're completely vertical, because we want to make sure that all the load comes down exactly straight on the board. And then these big pieces here are basically going to act as a big footer that will then consistently distribute the load from up top through these boards down to the floor, which is important. We're expecting this to, with that amount of weight, just the weight on the roof alone, excluding the block, we're going to be pouring just under 4 yards of concrete, and then the block itself is going to end up taking 5 yards of concrete. So the next pour we do, and we'll video that and make sure we get it out, we're going to be getting a full truck. It's 9 yards. That's the maximum they can put on a truck. Maybe some other states they do something different, but here in Arkansas, 9 is what they put on. And it's going to be a big job, but we're expecting good things to come from it. And it's all just like everything else. It's just in the prep work like you do, and that's what's so important here. We're just making sure that foundationally or structurally we are sturdy enough to make sure we can support that weight. So we'll show you when we're done, and then we'll start putting some plywood on. Thanks for watching. Okay, you can look down inside there and see we've got it all the way framed. Just got this front little area to finish here. You might be wondering what this black plastic is. Well, we've had a chance of rain. I had a good friend come over, Dave, and help me out. He helped me string up this black plastic, so that way if it rains we don't get any water down inside the holes. So we're really trying to avoid that before we pour the concrete. See up top we've already got a couple pieces of plywood laid all the way up there. So we're going to go ahead and work on this, but finish it up tomorrow. We'll go ahead and get this posted tonight, let you all see it, and then tomorrow we'll hopefully get another video up because we really need to get some progress because the concrete truck's coming. Thank you all. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for subscribing. Hope you have a wonderful day. Shalom.